I know I want strategic plan slash based on Saturday, strategic plan slash Power Day. Gotta go over that.
Why would they go from October to June?
So,
There's a
schedule part of it, but was also staff for, capacity. The other side of combat was some of that. I think traveling with regular staff for,
You do this cross-country thing every year.
Uh-huh.
You've done this cross-country thing every year.
No, I see.
That's what I told him, I started the tradition of taking one.
holiday.
Oh, I see.
But I said,
Right, yeah.
sure.
Otherwise, it's like, why?
I've been in it.
I eat
Never.
every,
Summer.
I got a cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger.
And that was part of their argument.
15 bucks.
Whether that was
Blazers.
Well,
Blazers.
I always eat.
yeah.
It was good.
Gary got back.
It was good. It was
Because
just,
it's really.
Gary, did he get back with my email? I just was looking at it, he forwarded it to me, and I saw you CC me. I before.
Yeah, I
I know that.
And so, because it must have bounced across.
That's what I told him. I said, I know what I did.
Yeah. And so, but he had sent it to me, and I said, hey, tonight works.
Yeah. he did.
So.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that.
Because they all had something going on. We broke all the rules tonight.
Well, that was me
You
trying
didn't see
to
the job.
different school districts.
I know.
I'm trying to-
Attorneys were
And I
coming.
thought, well, I got it,
Which
so.
I'm trying to- Why is my voice still on here?
Oh, yes. It still goes to you.
I'm still recording. And Paul Norton goes, you don't know how to change it.
The other
You
And,
need Casey.
have
I know, that whole phone
either
is just.
multiple cameras or a hidden.
Oh, well, I'm not.
not, can I get a motion?
Move we approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Anybody here that would like to speak during the public comment section? Next, special reports and presentations. Coach? Come on up here.
All right, where are you on
See
this?
in the video.
Okay. Oh.
I think I've done this
I
every,
forgot.
I think
Yeah.
I've done this every year, haven't I?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So this is a proclamation. Whereas October 31st, 2020, the Baldwin High School girls cross country team won the 4-H state championship again. Whereas in recognition of the Baldwin High School girls cross country team, now therefore I, Casey Semino, Mayor of the City of Baldwin City, do hereby proclaim November 17th, 2020 to be Baldwin High School Girls Cross Country Day. So congratulations,
Thank
Coach.
you so much. We'll do the old.
There you go.
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate this. Thank you so much. No, thank you is good enough. Thank you is good enough. And it's amazing how much
Next item on the agenda is the Baldwin City Recreation. Mr. McClure.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor, council. So tonight, what I'm gonna go through with you is the 2020 pool report. And I don't know, Laura, if you have that handy. You're looking at it, okay? All right, very good. I've got a hard copy myself here. So basically, I'll kind of run through this with you. If you have any questions at the end, by all means, fire away. Well, as you know, 2020 has been anything but normal. I think that pretty much goes without saying. And that was pretty much the case at the pool this summer as well. We started the year, we were unsure if we were even going to be able to open. Fortunately, working with the city, provided us a lot of grace, and we were able to push the opening back a little bit to kind of ensure, COVID numbers allowed for a safe opening. It also gave us enough time to recruit staff and get them trained in time. So we ended up opening on June 29th this year, whereas normally we would open on Memorial Weekend, late May. We opened June 29th for lap swim, and then a week later, July 6th, we opened for open swim lessons, or open swim. In addition to the later opening, there were several steps taken to ensure that we could operate the pool safely. Among those, we moved to an online reservation system to provide scheduled swim times on a limited basis, so we could kind of ensure social distance on the pool deck. We took temperatures for everyone who entered the pool every session. We allowed extra time in between sessions for extra sanitizing and things like that to keep the place clean and up to date. We allowed patrons to bring their own chairs in. That way we can avoid the shared seating situations. So you bring your own chair in, take your own chair out. It worked really well. We did not allow walk-up swimmers this year. This enabled us to be a cashless facility. So if you wanted to swim, you really had to make an effort to schedule a time, buy a pass, schedule a time, and make the effort to get there. We also did not open concessions at all, so we didn't have to worry about cash at the concession stand. And looking forward to 2021, being a cashless concession stand is something we've considered, but we're not sure if we'll follow through with that or not, because a lot of times, hopefully we're back to normal in the summer, and parents aren't going to send the kids to the pool with a credit card. So we'll probably have to open back up to cash, most likely in 2021. Another step we took to ensure safety, we limited swim lesson numbers, and in particular in classes where swim competency was low. We required that a household member aged 14 years of age or older be in the water with the swimmers to provide assistance, because our staff couldn't be in the water. We'd be violating then some of the social distance laws that were in place at the time. So we took several steps, and again, in cooperation with the city, we had a very successful pool season. To my knowledge, and to our knowledge at all, we did not have any cases of COVID that stemmed from the pool. So, that said, it was to us, it was a very successful pool season. So moving on, I'm not sure, I'm on page 2, where it's talk about attendance, if you're following along. Basically what I've got is a comparison of columns from 2020 to 2019. So obviously 2020 is going to be lower in numbers all the way around, but it kind of gives you a general idea of how the summer looked. So our average weekly attendance in 2020, we averaged about 401 swimmers a week. Whereas in 2019, we averaged about 1,400 swimmers a week. We knew it would be low. Like I said, people had to really make an effort to get to the pool this summer, and that's the way we kind of wanted it. The highest weekly attendance in 2020 was 574 versus 2019, which was 1,224 patrons. Lowest weekly attendance was 280 that first week of August, and then 208 was our lowest weekly attendance in 2019. Don't ask me why the lowest was higher in 2020 than 2019. It just worked out that way. So that led to a total attendance for the year of just over 3,000 patrons. We were also only open for 51 days in 2020 versus 70 days in 2019. So lower number of days open, obviously we're going to have lower participation. Passes sold this year. We only sold these cards like this, little swipe cards. And we sold those as open swim passes as well as lap swim passes and then a deep water exercise pass. So no matter which pass you bought, it looked like this. It just registered differently on our system when you checked in. So you'd walk in, you'd scan in. It was a touchless system. When you went in, it worked really well. You'd scan in, and then you were logged in, and you were good to go. You could go swim. Didn't take long to get through the line at all. As far as physical cards sold in 2020, we sold 155 of these. For open swim, we sold 43 for lap swim. And then BCRC employee, City of Baldwin employee sold a few. And we had a gift certificate for punch cards we passed out back in, I think it was January before all this kind of hit. So we had 2 of those gift certificate cards as well. So total passes sold for 2020 was 213 versus 368 in 2019. Now, as far as uses go, if you're looking at the uses page, I'll kind of explain this a little bit. In 2020, the open swim punch card, there was 2,447 uses. So that means 2,447 swipes of this card. The number in parentheses at 3,822, that's how many people registered for an open swim time. And so the number, the 2,447 number is how many people actually showed up. So when you have a scheduled swim time, which we capped at 125 people per session. So we had 2 sessions per day, Monday through Sunday. And so you could sign up for a session from 1:30 to 3 or 3:30 to 5. So you could go through, once we opened up all the sessions, you go in and sign up for as many sessions as you wanted, right? Because you've already bought your pass. That enables you to go in and sign up for whatever swim times you wanted. So you could sign up for a swim time a week or 2 in advance, not knowing what the weather was going to be like. So if you signed up 2 weeks in advance, maybe that was a cloudy, rainy day that day, and you didn't go to the pool, it worked out okay because we capped, like I said, we capped the registration numbers at 125. Well, the closest we ever came to that was upper 70s. That was basically our high. So highest for the day was like 127. That's combined between 2 sessions. So we never really came close to that, but you could go in and sign up for something and then not show up for your swim time. But there was no consequence to that because it never even came close to maxing out. Same way with lap swim. You can see that we had 554 lap swimmers check in for lap swim time, but we had 828 register. Deep water exercise, we had 135 actually come and check in, 212 registered. So for total numbers, that was part of our total attendance. We had 3,136 people show up at the pool this summer, when actually just over 4,800 registered to come. Swim lesson wise, down obviously, but I think Mayor Semino and I talked about this. We think swim lessons is an essential part of the pool, an essential need in the community. We only serviced 102 youth in swim lessons versus 246 in 2019, but that's 102 kids who got swim lessons who otherwise wouldn't have got them if we hadn't opened the pool at all. So we're very proud of that fact. The next couple slides, starting with pool parties. We weren't allowed to have pool parties in 2020, obviously. Hopefully we'll be back up to normal in 2021. We can do those again. But I basically provided numbers from 2019 to 2018 on what a pool party season looks like, how many parties we provide, how many total people attend, and average per party. If you're seeing those numbers, basically in 2019 we had 48 parties, about a little over 1,400 people attended, and it works out to an average of about 30 people per pool party. Free days. In 2020, we didn't do any free days. Everything was scheduled as part of your pass. But in 2019, we offered 3 free days, and we'll do those again in 2021. Total free days admittance was about 775 in 2019. Swim team and meets, another thing that we weren't able to do in 2020 was a swim team. So we've already been in conversation with those folks who were part of the swim team, and we're excited to offer that in 2021, provided we're in condition to do so. But as you can see, we had 2 swim meets in 2019. We had 3 in 2018. So my guess is we'll be hosting about the same number in 2021 as well. So 2018, we had 48 swim team members. We had 39 in 2019, and obviously we did not in 2020. Hope we'll get that number back after 2021. 21 special events. We started bringing special events to the pool I think, of the first year I started, which was maybe 2018. And so we accommodated the tweens, the teens, and some of your grade school nights. We found that the tween nights, which is your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and your grade school nights, your 3rd through 5th graders, are the most popular. Teens, it's tough to get teenagers to show up for stuff sometimes, but we gave it a shot. So we're going to kind of capitalize on those 2 age groups for 2021 because that's where we got our biggest attendance. So those nights are basically for those age groups. Mom and dad can drop them off at the pool in the evening, and we'll provide hot dogs, chips, and a drink. We'll have some door prizes as well. So looking forward to getting back to those in 2021. As far as community impact goes, if you're looking at that slide in front of you, this is basically total staff that we hired for the 2020 season. If you skim down to the bottom where it says total staff, you'll see the number 46 and then the number 30 in parentheses. What that means is we have 46 staff positions to fill at the pool, and we hired 30 kids to fill those 46 positions, if that makes sense. So what you'll see is that we hired 23 lifeguards in 2020, but a lot of those lifeguards are also water safety instructors, and then some are rotate between social distance staff and admission staff as well. We had 3 admission staff this year. Normally we just hire 2, but we needed 3 this year, but with the due to the fact we were taking temperatures, so we needed an extra body at the front gate. Total wages paid out to staff this year was just over $56,000. So we pride ourselves on that. That's money going to local kids going back into the community, whether it's gas at Quick Shop or burgers at Burger King or drinks at Sonic, whatever you may have. But hopefully we'll get back up to the 2021 numbers next year as well. The next slide is proposed 2021 prices. So we looked at our price structure, and we compared our price structure to area pools and to kind of see what they're charging and see if we were in line. We found we could lower our price just a little bit to kind of be more in line with area pools, and the hope is to sell more passes. So we'll provide an incentive to sell passes earlier next year. So we're having an early bird price that'll be in effect until May 1st. Then after May 1st, prices go up $10 to $25 depending on which pass you're purchasing. So we will definitely incentivize and push people to get their pool passes bought prior to May 1 to take advantage of the early bird pricing. Proposed 2021 hours. We're going to open an hour early in 2021. We've had a lot of requests from folks in the community to open at noon versus 1 o'clock. In the past, we've been steady from 1 to 7. We're going to open at noon in 2021 and be open until 7 o'clock still. Our 2019 hours were, like I said, from 1 to 7, and so we hope to accommodate a lot of those folks who we talk to, and we can get them there earlier in the day. It's also nice too because when we have swim lessons in the morning or we have staff meetings and things like that, the staff's already there, so we might as well just open the gates and let people in and extend the day a little bit. We will stay open on Saturdays in August. We had a push for that as well. So last day for 2021 will be August 8th. And then we'll stay open on Saturdays through the end of August from noon to 4. A lot of times that participation really wanes as later in the summer you get, as school starts and things like that. But we'll still provide that opportunity in 2021. We are starting, the pool itself will open a little bit later in this year, or actually in 2021, because school goes a little bit later this year. So with school being in session later, we can't get those kids in to train properly. So it's going to push us a week later into the summer before we can open. So we'll actually open on, instead of Memorial Day this year, we'll open on the following Monday, which will be June 7th. So June 7th to August 8th, then we'll stay open on Saturdays in the afternoons through the end of August. That's pretty much all I had for you guys. If you have any questions, by all means, I'll do my best to answer. But
Any questions for Matt?
I appreciate all the work that was put into putting this season on. I know this was a tough decision. Casey and I talked about it several times, and this was tough for everybody, but I think this is an example of responsible organization, what can happen during this. I really think the schools have done a great job. It's not always perfect. May get shut down before we know it. But I think this is a great example of getting through something like this. So I congratulate you guys on the season that you had, and the numbers look impressive to me.
Well, Thanks. And it's credit to, Casey and we met several times on this as far as, we wanted to get this open and there was a question like, could we do it, but fortunately we were granted flexibility to try to figure out a way to do it and we got it done. We were happy to do so. Looking forward to next year.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Next item on the agenda is the appointment for Public Works and Utilities. I finally have a citizen willing to serve on the Public Works and Utilities.
Wait a second, I thought this is the one that made it through the rigorous process.
It was a 9-month-long process.
Please tell the story.
I finally got through all the applications. But Brian Temple has Josh Temple has agreed to serve on the committee, so I would recommend him be appointed as a citizen representation on your committee. With that, you need a vote on this?
I move Josh Temple be appointed to Public Works and Utilities Committee as a citizen.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the RFP for the city website. Lynn, do you want to give us
An overview?
an overview of this?
How much of this would you like me to leave out?
Give us the
Cliff notes.
the footnotes, the abbreviated version of why you want to do it. What's the benefit to the city? What's the cost or cost savings to the city? And then we'll just let council ask any questions.
Okay, so essentially, the main reason I want to do it is to make content easier for users to find and understand and just make it more visually appealing, which will make it more engaging. Those are my primary reasons for wanting to redo it. And then when I realized that we actually already put quite a lot of money into the existing website every year, I thought perhaps we could do better. The other thing that I've noticed is that mobile users are increasing exponentially. Use that word, but in 2018, the entirety of users on the website was about 46% mobile. Today, it's 54%. And as of last fall, it was still less than 50. So that's an enormous trend towards mobile use. I know pretty much all of you use mobile phones, and you probably all tried to access the website at some point. It is not mobile friendly. We could have, our options were to redesign using the current system, which I thought about for several months and dug into how to use the system, did some training. I'm not impressed with the back end. I'm not impressed with the front end. I'm not impressed with their new websites that they've done for other cities and other places. So the next step was to see were there better options. And as Glenn is my witness, I am used to bootstrapping things. And yes, he's told me multiple times I'm overthinking everything. So anyway, I'm used to bootstrapping things, and I wanted to see if I could perhaps cobble something together. But at the end of the day, the city does not need somebody to cobble something together. They need an actual solution to all of the problems as well as possible, contained into something that is both easy to use, mostly easier for users to use. I'm not as worried about city staff. At the moment, I am the only city staff that uses the website a lot on the front end. Laura's the only other one that uses it a lot, and her usage is a lot on the back end, mainly to do with HR and Civic Clerk, which incidentally, those two modules within Civic Clerk are standalone. Civic Clerk and Civic HR modules. So if Laura wants to keep those, she can. So the portions that you're looking at mainly have to do with redoing, and that will be a choice that she can make because this company that I'm recommending could handle that if she wants to. But that would be up to her, in my mind. So essentially, the cost at the moment, in 2018, we paid Civic Plus over $25,000. In 2019, it was over $24,000. And this year, it's been nearly $23,000. Now, that cost is not only website maintenance, it is also for user training. It's for Civic Ready, which is the iPod integration. And it's I spoke with the Public Safety Committee about bringing emergency communications strategy through that committee and thinking through everything, including iPods, and what else we could do, either to integrate iPods differently or in any case, I would like to rethink that. I do not think that's the best solution by any means, and that's $2,000 a year. The other portions are for, I think your two modules together total around $8,000 a year. Does that seem right to you? I'm not sure. Okay. I have those numbers, but anyway, it's around 8,000. So, I mean, the cost saving is not as straightforward as it sounds, but still, for this particular solution, we would have around, I think the number that you have in front of you is 36 something, that we would pay to this agency to set up a standalone solution. We would pay them around $4,000 a year to maintain the site if we want to. And some of that is, and that's hosting, most of that is ongoing cost, you gotta pay somebody. And then after that, we would not be paying the large amounts per year that we own now. It would be something we own, we could do something else with it, we could just use it as it is and update it as we need to, or however we see fit. Question?
So, based on the numbers you just gave in my head, I was figuring out our return on investment would be about 4 years. Right?
About what?
About 4 years return on investment as far as where we start saving money versus,
I think 3, but 4 is solid.
yeah, I was figuring conservatively. But.
Does that include the functionality that we may keep from Civic Clerk, et cetera? And have we modeled that into
Well, how I figured it was if we kept those modules in there around 8,000,
right?
and then the 2,000 for the emergency management's 10, we're spending 22, let's say conservatively, that's 12,000 per year of savings. This is 36,000, so about 3 to 4 years.
That's
You know,
about
that
right.
fluctuates.
And that's, yeah, what I was thinking.
That's how I was
Yeah,
figuring
no,
it.
I think that's a fair assessment, assuming that 8,000's in the ballpark.
And in speaking with other cities that are using Jesse James Creative, I mean, one of the things that I noticed right off is that most of them have been with this agency for 6-7 years. So, number one, their solutions last. And number two, they do tend to keep customers. The other thing is just simply that, and I mean, we had 15 proposals, and it was a little difficult to weed down. And my first inclination was definitely not to go with an agency in New York City, to be fair. I wanted to stay local. But I do truly feel like this particular agency, number one, they understood Civic Plus. They were explaining the back end to me. And that was the only agency that actually knew how it worked. So I felt very comfortable knowing that if Laura decides to keep those two modules, that there will be full integrations. And secondly, they have been in business as a creative agency since 1989. That's a few years.
Glenn, did we have this in our budget? Where would this come from?
Yeah, we could actually see they wouldn't even start until next. The current contract with Civic Plus goes through the end of this year into next year, until next fall. So they wouldn't really start until the next year after that.
So then in 2022 would be the first when we'd have to pay it?
At probably the tail end of 21. It'll take them. I don't know. how long would it take to fully develop this? 6 months or more?
20 to 24 weeks, so yeah,
Yeah.
close to six months.
So it'll take a while to do that. But anyway, we spread it around to all the different departments right now. That's the way we handle the payments for our websites and everything. So it'd be less than 10,000 for each of our major funds. So
So we have it in our.
yeah, we could, we wanted to get it down. Honestly, our goal was to get under 50,000. And once we were starting to get there, it was a lot more comfortable. I didn't want to pay any more than that. That's too much for a small city.
One of the important things for me reading through the proposal is if we do in fact develop a tourism website that's part of this. So that's where the mobile part really also once again comes in so important, because visitors, as they're around town, this is what they're going to look at to try to find information. So Lynn, I mean, they would build a city website. When it came time to do a tourism component of that, is that something you would be able to do, or would they do that as part of this?
Very easily, they have several tourism sites,
Okay.
and they have specific content modules developed for that already.
I took the time to look up this company, and they had extensive background in doing city websites. I was very impressed. So I think it's probably a really good choice. And I know on the 2 websites that I maintain, I just, month after month, I'm seeing the mobile usage increase. So having a mobile-friendly website is critical.
Well, and I think part of the reason I included the report at the end with digital stats is because I think it's pretty obvious that we don't have the top-of-mind website that we should have. Our reach on mobile is mainly mobile. Our reach on social media is mainly mobile users. And those people are staying on social media for a reason. Lots of people, when they're watching live streams and whatnot, they're asking, well, where's the agenda? They don't want to go poking around on the website and find it. They want to stay there because it's friendly. So I think that's something we would have a lot more. And when you have more reach, you have more literate citizens. You have people who understand what you're doing better. So just from a standpoint of openness and transparency, I felt like this was the best choice I could recommend. And yes, I didn't actually want to be sold on Jesse James Creative, but it kind of got me.
You're not overthinking it.
I had the same initial thought. I was like, oh, they're from New York? But then I saw their background and, okay. It makes sense.
Well, this is a pretty comprehensive RFP. I think you did your homework on it, so you overthought a lot, the important part, obviously. So I just want to make sure everybody understands and make sure you're thinking about it. This is going to give us kind of a capability, right, to offer information to people that want to get it in the way they want to get it. But that's all it's going to do. We're still responsible for all the content. And the really heavy lifting, as you know, is the content. I mean, it could be the slickest, prettiest website in the world. If the content is subpar, it's a subpar site. So I think the real work is how are we going to keep the content fresh and what's needed. You know, department heads, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people in this room that can contribute and probably should. But my experience is that's the part that ends up falling down, is that your content just starts waning off, people lose interest, and then you have stale information. So I guess I think it's the right thing to do. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about that, because that's going to take much more thought and effort than this part, and this was a lot of heavy lifting. So I know you have thought about it, but we all need to be thinking about as well is content. And get the citizens to tell us what they want to see. And get some metrics on what's being viewed. And I saw that they would see where people are trying to click to and they can't get to, and it kind of would tell you what they want without actually asking them.
And that is one of the, actually that's the first step of Jesse James Creative. And one of the things in the request for proposal that I wrote was I want a solid process.
Right.
And that's one of the things they bring to the table.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Discussion?
I had, when I put together the agenda, packet, I had to move a couple of files over and on the agenda so that they would be in one place. And as I did, I read the memo that Lynn had written, and it appeared that the numbers might not have been accurate, because I'm not real sure.
Right.
I mean, Dana gets the bill, you know how it goes, it kind of goes through different people. So I had asked if I could have the cost for just our current website and the accurate numbers. And so they gave me 2 invoices that they had sent. 2019 was $8,939.70, and 2020 was $9,386.69. That does not include all the modules that we pay extra for. And so what I would like to say to the council, it's not my decision to decide to keep Civic Clerk or Civic HR. That's you guys. I mean, you're the ones that approve spending the money. And so if you decide you don't want to spend whatever that cost is for just those 2 modules, not my call. I mean, I have spent a lot of time putting that together and getting that built up so it would flow easily. My job is a 2-person job, and so it was something that Glenn and I talked about putting together, having those 2 modules so I could be able to do my job a little bit more efficiently. But then again, I don't want you to feel that I'll do whatever.
Ultimately, I think that would be a city administrator decision, because that's pretty micro as far as that. I think the council just needs to decide if they want to spend the money on the website or not, and then whatever module you guys decide on an annual basis would be, I think, a staff decisions with it.
Okay.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Before you do that, are these the actual numbers? Because the ones we saw in the memo for an RFP response
Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
was not the same.
I got the updated numbers today, and the number in my memo was slightly less than what you gave me. I think it's 35 and not 36.
No, I think it was actually higher. I thought, didn't it?
Yeah, it was 36, yeah. wasn't it?
I was like 49.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
39.
it's in the low 30s.
36,250 is
Right.
the actual number.
So it's lower than actually what we showed in the RFP. Right?
Yes, and if you're curious why he dropped it, that's it.
Your superb negotiating skills, just leave it at that.
That's it.
We're thinking.
What Scott said.
We're good.
Well, with that,
I move we approve the proposal from Jesse James Creative in the amount of $36,250.
Second.
been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the fun item. The water, wastewater treatment plant update. The fun talk. I'll give a quick update. We did meet with the utility committee on Thursday. I called an emergency meeting because there's kind of an emergency. And that's what we're here to talk to now. We have a system failing in the wastewater treatment plant. It's a very expensive piece. I'll let the staff give, but I did want it to run through committee before coming to the council, just so I wasn't the only one that was aware of the situation before we came to the council with it. But with that, if you want to give the council a quick update of.
Well, where do you want me to start?
You don't have to get down to the murky details.
Well, it started back, I think on the 30th. That when it was a Friday. He noticed that there was some water backing up in a pit that it should not have been backing up in. And when he chased that down, it turns out that it was the influent pumps weren't kicking on, and it was due to a PLC failure. And
Can you explain what PLC is?
it's basically motor controls that particular PLC, I believe, takes care of influent and effluent pumps, which feed the plant and also kick it out the back.
They stir the sludge back and forth through the pits and they feed the plant. Yes, they pump all the water from the town into the plant. And a PLC is a programmable logic controller. It can control hundreds of pumps and stuff. It's basically a computer system is what it is. And there's 5 of them in the wastewater system that are no longer supported. I'm not speaking public speaker, though. Allen Bradley stopped supporting them back in 2017, so they are old technology. We cannot get new ones anymore. We had one old one from the fire tree lift station that was still good, that they're able to put in to get us by for right now. But if one goes down again, everything's going to be working 24/7, 7 days a week. We'd have to manually go out there, check the pit. When it's ready to pump, we'd go inside, turn them on manually, go out and turn them back off when we need to, back and forth. We would have to be there all the time. There's no simple replacement plug and play one. We would have to get all new ones so they'd all talk together and work together. That's why it's so expensive. It's just the technology's old and they just quit making it.
So if this system fails, right, complete fail, and you're not there, somebody's gone and we can't operate for 24 hours, what happens?
The water starts backing up into the town. Probably within 4 or 5 hours, it's probably going to fill the main 27-inch trunk back. It won't overflow into the town, but it'll overflow at the sewer plant. It'll just overflow out of the bar screen room. That water will just go in the creek, and that's where the EPA gets involved.
So
We don't want that.
So does it back into people's basements and stuff like that?
It possibly could into a few of them,
Okay.
but the majority of it will just come out at the sewer wastewater plant, and it will overflow into the creek.
Okay.
Like I said, that's where EPA gets involved and finds that we're contaminating the ecosystem out there.
And can you guys talk a little bit about your bids, where you got them from, and why it's with that company? A little bit about what we talked to the utility committee about.
We only got one bid. Steve tried several times to get a hold of Schreiber. It's a Schreiber plant. And did they ever call you back?
They never called me back.
And it was actually 2 weeks before we could actually get anybody out there to look. They did get him Vantage back, the used one. Even if we did order tomorrow, it's still 6 to 8 weeks out on parts. And then you've got another however long it takes for programming and installation. So
And how much is this repair? How much was the bid?
130.
130 and some change or something like that. I don't remember the exact number.
130.
Also going with the company we went with is Microcom, which does our SCADA for our water towers and also for our sewer pump stations, the lift stations that are in town. That's why we kind of stay with the same company for everything. Would probably be a good thing versus having 2 separate companies come in and taking care of the wastewater plant, taking care of the water, and then taking care of the town's sewer lift pumps separately. I think it should be the same company all the way around.
Even if we did find another company and to reprogram the PLCs, that would be, I don't know, 50, 60, 70,000, and then we still have to update our SCADA. So,
And for the council, specifically those elected for this year, or last year, this has been talked about for a couple years, so it wasn't, it wasn't a complete shock, but it's still, obviously whenever it happens, it's a shock because now you have to do something. So we kind of knew the system was aging. And the system, correct me if I'm wrong, is 20 years old, roughly?
2002, so it's close to 20, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And you know how much technology's changed just in 18 years. I mean, that's why they're not supported anymore. Allen Bradley's moved on to making new products.
We also did discuss in the committee meeting, and I'll let Brian and Julie share a little bit there, but we do have this money in our reserves for our wastewater. Clint checked into that. This is why you have reserves. But Brian, Julie, you guys have anything to add based on the committee conversations?
Well, I think it's a critical thing that needs to be done. And we've talked about this before in our committee about things that are going to be wearing out, that need to be replaced. And that's one of the things I think our committee is trying to work on, so that we don't get into these critical situations where things are going to break down and it's an emergency to do it. So the thing is right now it's something that's broken down and we need to get it fixed.
Yeah, and as Steve pointed out, that technology, that window is only going to shrink. Probably won't get another 20 years out of this because they'll come up with new software and the things that drive it. So we've been hearing about this, you're right. We go into strategic planning, it's these kind of things too that we need to think about as we move forward.
I think it'd be fantastic, as a committee, come forward with a prioritized list of, it sounds like a single point of failure. We saw it coming, you just don't know when it's going to happen. But to have an idea of, where budget money should go based on priorities would be a huge help, I think, in the planning process.
I think
Wow.
we've talked to Rob about that too, about getting, what their priorities are listed out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to almost see us develop a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. So that way we just have it mapped out, saying, whether that's $50,000 a year per year for brick street repair, and we just slowly start working through that stuff. I mean, at least in 10 years, then we're going to have some major progress on a lot of these items without breaking the bank. I don't know if we can plan it out we're always going to have, you always have stuff pop up that are unforeseen, but I would like to see us create a long-term plan.
When we met with the department head several weeks back and you guys spoke about sort of the conditions of the treatment plant, is this the bulk of what you were concerned about?
The SCADA system down there and the PLCs, yes, that was
Okay.
that's the major thing. That's the heart of it. It runs everything. Runs things automatically. Otherwise, it's more manpower, more time running everything manually.
I know with a lot of projects, sometimes when you're in there, it's sometimes cheaper to get other stuff done while you're in there. Is that one of the, I'm not familiar with any of that infrastructure. Is this something you want to maybe consider taking care of both those issues at once? Or is that, I'm asking your expertise here.
Yeah, basically take care of the SCADA and the PLCs at the same time. They kind of work hand in hand together, and it would, newer technology is basically, it's going to be automated. It's going to be on a computer versus a old light up board screen that's in there.
Okay.
That does, half of the components on it don't work anymore.
But this does that.
Yeah, this
This does that.
replaces
This will
all
be
that.
actually, it'll be mobile phone. I can look at home. I can see what's running, what's not, or anywhere in the world you can basically. So if something's messed up a pump that's not real critical to go in, I can say, well, I don't need to waste my time till morning going in, or I need to hurry up and get in there and take care of it.
Any other questions?
On the proposal that I'm looking at, it says something about things that are not included. What is that something that we should have included, or?
The DO would be nice to have it included. It would help get the nutrients out of there, which is phosphorus and ammonia. Right now, we control it on timers. With the DO's probes working, it will use less electricity on the blowers. They're 50 horse blowers. They pull a lot of juice. We run them longer hours than we probably should, but we have to keep that DO up to keep the microbiology alive out there. Yes, the DO part's important. The UV lights, not so important. We run those at 100% anyway, just to sterilize the bacteria before it goes to the creek.
How much is that extra piece?
It's about $15,000, I think, for the DO system. So bring it up to about 145,000 total. It would be nice to get it, but if not, we'll try to get it in the next couple of years in our machine and equipment repair. It's something we do need.
If we did it, like, let's say the council approved the 130,000 for this now, and then next year, we say, okay, let's go ahead and do this $15,000 one. Is there any price difference? Do we get any savings from doing both of them at the same time?
I imagine it would probably cost a little bit more to get them to remobilize, come back and get back in there and program more stuff and install it. I don't know for sure, but I assume it would be.
There usually is a cost associated with it.
That's basically having them make a second trip and install stuff. So.
It would be a separate item then, and so they would view it as such, I would think.
And how long does this fix our wastewater treatment plant situation, do you guys believe?
It would be a major fix to everything. I mean, we've replaced a couple pumps down there, but I know we're gonna have to replace pumps as we go on in the future because most of them are 18 years old, except for we got one new influent pump in and 2 new return pumps in. We still have about 4 or 5 more to get in there. They're about 20,000 a piece, but we're milking them along as we can. If we have the money in the budget next year and halfway through the year still have enough money, we will try to get another pump. A new pump each year just to get them all changed out.
That's what I was gonna ask. So you're replacing a pump per year?
That is our goal, yes. And it should be in the budget to do so.
Or?
On the proposal at the very end of it, it has that 131,239 price, and then it has the discount. So that brings that to 118,115. Is that correct?
Is that the new one or is that the old one?
This is what I was given. You're welcome to come look at it. I just want to make sure that they have the right numbers. So it's a customer discount right here.
I think that's the old one. That's the old one. We got a brand new one today.
Okay.
That was before they got all 5 PLCs in there.
Okay. Disregard the number that's on your motion.
Well, the 131 is the total of the other one after the customer discount.
Okay.
And your guys just have the 25,000 on it and the 15,000 for the DO. And that should be the correct one.
131,383.
131,383.
That's without that $15,000 part.
And with the DO, it's another 15. It's like 985. 905. 15,905.
Is that the one you guys have in front of you? I don't know.
No, I'm just what I showed you.
Okay.
That's all I was getting.
I can go get the paper out of my truck. I have one that you guys can pass around if you want to look at it.
So 147,288. What does that sound like? 147,288 would be the total amount.
I think in committee, that's kind of what we were talking about.
Right, with the extra 15 to 20 years.
I'm still learning the budget. You know, this is targeted from the wastewater systems improvement fund. I mean, is that treated as a reserve, or is that a fund that is funding all the projects identified, you know, for that year? I mean, kind of help me understand what that fund.
No, it really is set, I mean, what we have set up now is a reserve, and it's more healthy now than it's been in a long time. We've got about, you'll see, the report that Dana has for you tonight shows that roughly around $500,000 in there.
It's 575.
Yeah, we have not been at that level for a long time, so it's more healthy than it's been. So, but this is, you know, partly what it's there for is when you have these things that may be broken and fixed on the fly, but also it's set up to be long-term. So when we're planning more of these equipment things, we'll have cash, so we don't have to borrow for those things.
Yeah, so just the amount is really, I think, what we need to figure out going forward. So in my mind, you know, this is almost like, this was a savings account for this type of stuff, and we don't necessarily have to replace it back to that level in next year's budget if we don't think, if we think that level's too high based on everything that needs to be done. So it's almost like this is what it was for, and if we spend it, we don't have to actually put it in next year's budget if we don't want to, because that would drop it down to, you know, $430K.
Right.
And maybe that's more the target value that the council wants to see that at, so.
Well,
We
yeah.
talked about, thinking about these reserves as insurance policies.
Right.
And when you have a newer system in there, you have less exposure for something to go wrong, but
Right.
still probably should be lower. That's just thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I think that needs to be part of the long-term plan again, as we talk about, 5-year plan. If we have 400,000 and let's say we're putting in excess of $50,000 per year in there, if you want to maintain 400,000, well, now you got 50,000 you can spend each year on the sewage system in Baldwin to help keep it going or keep updating it slowly. But yeah, I agree with you, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole reserve
I think it's
discussion that we all need to get into. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of reserve fund stuff all over the place for good reason, and this is one of them, but at some point, people are funding that, and it's not doing anything. And if we don't need it, if we lower it, it just kind of lowers the need for the next year's budget. You don't have to ask for it back. So it's kind of an opportunity to spend down in some of these reserves, if that's what the council wants to do, based on the position we're in, if it's lower risk or whatever the reason is. So it's less budget impacting, I guess what I'm trying to say, potentially, than if we had to come up with it and take it from some other budget line item and not do something else.
Any other questions or discussions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the estimate from Microcom in the amount of
$147,288.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, council committee reports, budget and finance. Scott.
We met a week and a half ago, and really the only discussion we had was related to the website, but it was really what information from the budget, the 2021 budget, do we want to get out there now? So there's something that the public can look at. And yes, we talked about that, and I think we just settled on using the two documents that Baker Tilly developed and presented to the council. We all have. It's the budget overview presentation on July 14th in that work session, and then the proposed budget, which actually moved into the actual budget as the numbers didn't change. So those two, I think, are going onto the website if they're not already there.
Not yet.
Okay, and so they'll be accessible. And then we had discussion around how do we enhance that for understanding. And I think there'll be an ongoing effort to figure out how we take that, leverage it with maybe some of the capabilities of the new website, and say, how do we make this budget more understandable by the community? And that's gonna be an ongoing process. And I think what we do is bring back ideas to the council and say, what about this, and get some input from everybody, and just kind of incrementally get it better from a budget transparency and understanding perspective. And that was the extent of the discussion. Our next meeting is Friday at 7:45. Second floor of the City Hall.
We got it down now.
Yeah. I know what to say every time.
It's always on the week of the council.
Finally got it.
All right, community development, Corey.
We have not met since last meeting. We meet Monday at 4 o'clock, second floor of City Hall.
All right, public safety, Susan.
So Ed brought to the attention of the committee that there's a lot of homes in Baldwin that are not being maintained and get reported and go through the judicial system, but nothing ever really comes of it. So we discussed some kind of an incentive program for property owners to maintain their homes. And, we talked about a lot of these people are probably disabled or elderly or of a lower socioeconomic status. So we were kind of brainstorming ideas for kind of grant and maybe allocating those funds. It was the first time we really discussed this, so we're just going to kind of brainstorm, think about it, and bring it back to the next meeting. Any ideas we have for that? I think, goals with that is to not create a huge burden of work for the city staff, of course, and not make it a huge financial burden for the city. So finding that funding is going to be key. We also discussed a couple of demolitions of some properties, one at 19 Dearborn, another at 1714 College, both deemed unsafe. They've been, I guess, for years and years vacant, and the homeowners have never responded. So it's in the budget. It's $5,000 to $20,000 for the city, and then they'll try to recoup those funds from the homeowners, which likely not successful, and then a lien's put on the property. And lastly, we discussed the emergency communications, and Lynn is going to be putting together some kind of an emergency operation plan and bringing that back to our next meeting.
So what's the extent of the quantity of the first, households not meeting city requirements? I mean, what numbers are we talking about? Couple, 10, dozen? I mean, is there a list of those that are targeted? And it has as far as
I think he's talking about the home improvement.
the home improvement piece.
Yeah, like I said, it was our first discussion on
Okay.
it, so, we didn't get into too many details. It's just something we're all gonna kind of think about and bring back to the next meeting, so, more to come.
All right. Public Works and Utilities, Julie.
Well, the only meeting that we've had since the last council meeting was our emergency, and we've already discussed all of that. So our next meeting is Thursday, the 19th at 9:00.
Legislative.
We meet tomorrow at 8 o'clock, City Hall, and if it pleases the mayor and council, I'd like for Scott and I to discuss our strategic plan for the strategic plan. So I believe we have that set for Monday. Is that correct, Casey?
Yeah, I was going to announce it in the.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but maybe that piece of it we can discuss tomorrow.
City administrator staff comments?
Any questions on the financial summary or anything that Dana provided? If not, that's all I've got.
It's the only comment I'll make, I'm gonna keep harping on it, but, this is very useful. I think as we get into this, if you look at kind of where things are at, from a year-to-date and I guess authorized budget amounts, I mean, again, it gets back to that transfer in, transfer out. Some of these show bond money as expenditure, but then it's way over what we have authority to spend. And it's not clear unless you understand that's why that information's there. But just so the council knows that the wastewater, that East Interceptor, we spent bond money over $1 million this year, except our authority was about 60,000, which doesn't seem like it makes sense unless you figure out, well, there's actually some bond money that's part of that. So just some of those things we need to keep talking about and just trying to iron out different ways maybe to present that.
Maybe what we could look at, we might talk about this in the finance meeting, is doing a comparison chart from what the actual budget is compared to what we've currently spent year to date.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful because I think we're right on the budget, but it looks like we got a serious issue. If you just look at this number,
I mean,
what's going on? But yeah, the comparative actual, where are we at?
Yeah.
We remove that bond piece because that's what we expected to spend, and would be, other than the bond expenditure, what have we spent, and we're right on the plan.
Carve out the excess and then just look at
Carve out or explain it a different way.
budget to budget.
Yeah.
Budget to actual.
I think that's always helpful.
All right. The only comment I had, Brian mentioned it, we did set a work session for Monday evening at 7 o'clock for the strategic plan / Bower building to parlay off of our Saturday special meeting. So we'll be doing that, and that's at the American Legion, correct? So Any council comments? All right, executive session. We do need an executive session tonight. Probably 30 minutes.
Start there.
We'll start at 30 minutes. It could go longer, but 30 minutes.
Okay, I move we recess into executive session for consultation with our attorney for the city of Walden City. Privilege in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-4319, the city attorney Blake Glover, city administrator Glenn Rodden, city clerk Laura Hartman, Mike Patrick, and Jason Pryor, and resume in this room at
I'd say 8:35.
8:35 p.m.
Second?
I'm gonna take 60 seconds.
Second.
There you
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
I'm gonna
nay.
take 30 seconds.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Hey, you still go 4-0 anyway. Still have a quorum.
I motion we extend executive session by 15 minutes and return at
I'd probably say 8:52.
8:52.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
All right.
You give us a couple minutes to get in now. Get in the walk time.
17 minutes.
Yeah.
We just chunked it all into one meeting. All right, call the meeting back to order. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're adjourned.
Okay, how am I gonna do
Your
that one?
days.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, good.